Tashidilek, welcome to Tibet TV's weekly analysis, where we will discuss international politics and issues pertaining to Tibet. I am Yishtawa, your host for this program. Today we are going to discuss the very first Asian Relations Conference, its political significance for Tibet. When Tibet was a de facto nation, she had the privilege of appearing on some important international fora as an independent nation. One of such important fora was the first Asian Relations Conference held in March 1947 in New Delhi. Tibet's delegation led by Sampo Tsawarinji participated in the conference upon the host country India's invitation. One of the most significant memories of the conference was the presence of Mahatma Gandhi, who later addressed the gathering. If we look at pictures of conference, we can clearly see our delegates and our national flag in circular version in front of them. Hence, it was one of the most prominent and significant events that supports Tibet's history of independence before China's occupation. To discuss this matter, I'm joined by Professor Shankar Sharan, who is a professor of political science and a Hindi columnist. Professor Sharan has also authored a book titled 50 Years After the Asian Relations Conference, which was published by Tibetan Parliamentary and Policy Research back in 1997. So thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure.
Sir, let me first begin by asking you about the conference itself. So, sir, could you tell us about the birth of the Asian Relations Conference and how was the international political scenario back then, sir?
I think it was very interesting. I would like to compare it with the beginning of a very exciting tournament, like inauguration of a World Cup, of some game. That means, what I want to say is that all possibilities were open. So the main players, I mean the international players, were watched. Some of them were very enthusiastic. There was anticipation and hope, fear. At least four big players, that is Europe, United States, USSR, that was the communist Russia, and India. They were in a very completely new situation after the Second World War. So all these four were in a way in a very new situation. So I would say that everything was happening as if how the player would play, face the trouble, face the challenges. So I guess that international politics wise, nothing was prefixed. So all possibilities were open. And in a new situation, India was going to be independent, USSR became powerful, USA came to limelight, Europe was decolonizing, England was to leave India. So it was such a new situation that all possibilities were open at that time. So many things, what I feel now, because it is always easy to make judgment or analysis after everything has happened, but yet it is important. I think many things depended on the leaders, their understanding, their knowledge, their experience, abilities. I would add even cunning, but most of all, their fortitude and moral stand. What each leader was going to say, what each leader was going to keep mum, what they were going to do and what they were not going to do. So everything depended on that. And in that situation, that conference was watched by international powers, that how this new situation in Asia, where a big country like India is going to be independent, and many Asian countries were looking to India, and I would say even the United States, most of all United States, they were looking to India as giving leadership to a free, independent, democratic uh, public in Asia. And I think that was I should say, the excitement in the atmosphere. Those people who participated in that conference, fortunately, when we organized that 50th anniversary in 1997, the pamphlet you have, but we had published also the proceedings of that conference which we organized. Do you have that?
No, sir, I don't have, sir.
Okay, I can show it to you. It was a big book.
Okay, sir.
It was a big book.
Okay, sir.
And it contained all the speeches in that conference, in which so many actual participants of that original conference was also there, in which one of the senior foreign service officers, C.S. Jha, who were there, Bimla Prasad were there. But in fact, after you invited me, I went through it and I felt very proud that we collected so many very important people, great leaders. Sayyid Sahabuddin was there, the Jansangh president Balraj Madhok was there, Kapla Vatsayan was there, Madhu Dandavate was there, and of course, Professor Samdang Rinpoche. So, I gathered from their speeches who participated that it was a time of very excitement. Everybody was looking to the new Indian leadership. But in a final way, I would say that the situation was like the inauguration of a tournament. Nobody knew who is going to be champion. Nobody knew who will make a blunder. So that was the situation.
But, sir, how did the idea of this conference come up, sir?
I think, as far as I remember, Jawaharlal Nehru was very international minded. He was taking parts in international conferences in 1930s. So he was a known figure in international politics, democratic and the left wing, because he was very left wing type also. So he was a well-known enthusiast of international relations, and I think it was his idea basically. But in fact, other people also. In 1946, he made a tour of several Asian countries, and there he got this feeling that many countries are looking to India to have a kind of forum. So the main objective was Asian Relations Conference was to create an Asian forum, Asian platform,
Okay, sir.
where all the Asian countries could come and join and discuss issues. So that's why the Congress or India invited so many countries and even international observers from Asia, Australia, many other continents too.
Okay, sir. If I now ask you straightforwardly, sir, on what status and recognition was Tibetan delegation invited to the conference, sir?
I think at that time it was not at all an issue, because Tibet was an ancient nation, very well recognized all over the world. All world maps for several centuries back always mentioned Tibet as an independent entity. And I would say, even I have those publications, that even till 1960s, on the world map and even on Indian map, Tibet was always shown as an independent country. And not only that, the political status was also very clear. It was not just a map. Perhaps you know very well that Tibet had an embassy in Peking up to 1949, till the Chiang Kai-shek. So I see that Tibet had a status de facto and de jure. Both way, Tibet was well recognized and independent country. So there was no reason why Tibet would not have been invited, especially the nearest neighbor with such a long cultural associations. But most of all, Tibet's political status was not in dispute at that time. Maybe some differences of interpretations, but no one at that time could tell that Tibet is not an independent country, because the very China had an embassy of Tibet.
So while going through your book, I found that there were 242 delegates at the conference, right, sir? Among them, there were also 4 Tibetan delegates. Sir, Tibet's delegation was led by Samput Tsewa Rinzing. So what was Samput Tsewa Rinzing's main message from his address at the conference, sir?
I think, as I was saying, that he was quite shy. He did not assert his political views. He simply said that Tibet is an ancient country. It tries to lead on the religious principles, and we want to live that way. So he was very kind and brief, and he did not give any political message at all. But I believe, I guess that it was not deliberate. I think Chinese diplomacy, I think till today it is not very much different because historically speaking, 70, 80 years are nothing. I think China in the background, they tried to convince both Indian and Tibetans that not to raise this issue too much, not to be political. Not Tibetans should not be political, because I'm telling you this thing again, that China was not in a position to enforce anything, and perhaps you would not be knowing that at that time, I guess you see in that booklet I'm showing you a map. You see this map? You can see that not only Tibet is independent, but actually India is bigger than China in this map at that time. And in fact, actually India's uh, area was slightly larger than China at that time, internationally recognized. So I think it was just a matter of playing, word play. If Tibet and India would have asserted at that time, then Chinese would have been backed off. But since it was not so, and as I'm telling you that Tibetan delegation's speech, leader's speech, was very brief and it was totally non-political. And but I guess it was more India's fault than the Tibet.
With this, we're going to wind up today's discussion. Before I wind up, I would like to thank Professor Shankar Sharanji for joining us and shedding some insightful lights on today's topic. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.